On a quiet street in Omaha, Nebraska, there's an ordinary house, 5 bedrooms, a tidy lawn, nothing you'd ever photograph. It was bought back in 1958 for $31,500, and the man who lives there still hasn't moved. Every morning, he drives himself to work in a modest car, and on the way, he stops for a McDonald's breakfast that never costs more than about $4. No driver, no entourage, just a guy and a paper bag. You would walk right past him on the sidewalk and never look twice. His name is Warren Buffett, and he is worth around $145 billion. Let that sit for a second. He could buy that entire street, the mansion on the hill, the private jet, a different supercar for every day of the month. He looks at all of it every single day and chooses the same old house and the same $4 breakfast. Not because he has to, on purpose. Now picture the opposite. The guy revving the leased supercar at the red light. The one everyone turns to look at, statistically, he's often one missed payment away from zero. Here's the secret the wealthy understand and the broke almost never do. The way something looks and the way it actually is are usually complete opposites. So today I'm giving you 7 reasons why looking poor might be the smartest financial move you'll ever make. Stick around for reason number 2. It's going to make some people in the comments genuinely angry. Welcome back to the Frugal Banker. I'm Clara, and let's clear one thing up right away. Looking poor does not mean wearing rags, being a cheapskate, or pretending you have nothing. It means something the truly wealthy figured out generations ago. Real money is quiet. The loud stuff you can actually see, the logo, the watch, the badge on the car, is almost always the costume, almost never the body underneath. Think of wealth like an iceberg. The part everyone can see, the designer bag, the new SUV, the flashy watch, is the tiny tip poking above the water. The real mass, the part that actually makes a person rich, sits silent and invisible below the surface, paid-off homes, index funds, businesses, calm. The people obsessed with the tip usually have nothing underneath. The people building the iceberg rarely show you the tip at all, so let's flip everything you were taught about money and status. 7 reasons, starting now. Reason 1. The people who look rich are usually the ones who are quietly broke. The book, The Millionaire Next Door, studied thousands of actual American millionaires, and the result was almost funny. The flashy big spenders were mostly not the wealthy ones. The researchers had a phrase for it. Big hat, no cattle. Loud on the outside, empty in the bank. Here's why. Almost everything that looks like wealth is actually rented. The luxury car is leased. The watch is on a payment plan. The designer outfit is 3 months of credit card minimums waiting to happen. Visible luxury is the single easiest thing on earth to fake. All you need is debt and the willingness to quietly drown in it. The look costs almost nothing up front. The bill arrives later in private where nobody's watching. Real wealth does the exact opposite. It hides. It sits in boring index funds, paid-off houses, and brokerage accounts no stranger will ever see. It makes no noise because it has nothing to prove. So the next time someone is showing you absolutely everything they own, ask one quiet question in your head. If they're this loud about money, how much of it do they actually get to keep? Usually the louder the display, the emptier the vault. And here's the distinction that changes everything once you see it. Income is not wealth. A big salary that gets spent entirely is just a big number passing through your hands on its way to someone else. Wealth is only what you keep and quietly grow. There are people earning $400,000 a year who are broke, and people earning $60,000 who are millionaires. The difference was never the income. It was who felt the need to look the part. Reason 2, and this is the one that's going to start fights down in the comments, so buckle up. Every visible luxury you buy is a tax you volunteer to pay to strangers who do not actually care about you even a little. I call it the logo tax, and most people pay it their whole lives without ever noticing. Think hard about who you're really buying that logo for. It isn't you. You already know what you own. The logo tells you nothing new. You're buying it for the audience, and here's the brutal punchline. The audience isn't watching. They're too busy worrying about their own audience, performing for people who are also not watching them. It is a giant room full of people flexing as hard as they can. At absolutely no one, so you pay the premium. Sometimes 5 or 10 times the price of the identical unbranded version, purely for a little stitch symbol that signals status to people who forget your face in 5 seconds. That price difference isn't style, it isn't quality. It's a tax on your own insecurity collected by companies that figured out your ego is the easiest thing to sell to. Stop paying the logo tax, and you just handed yourself a permanent raise that no boss can ever take back. Run the numbers on one example. A $1,200 logo handbag and a beautifully made $40 one are often sewn in the very same factories, from the very same materials. You're not paying the extra $1,160 for a better bag. You're paying it for the little nameplate and the faint hope that a stranger notices. Invest that gap instead every single time, and in 10 years it stops being pocket change. It becomes a down payment. Reason 3, looking poor makes you invisible to all the people who want a piece of you. Because the moment you start looking rich, you paint a target on your own back. Suddenly, everyone around you wants something, and most of them have already decided you can afford it. You know the cast of characters. The friends who just assume you'll grab the check every time. The relative who needs just a small loan that never comes back. The acquaintance with the can't-miss investment. The contractor who quotes you double. The lawsuit that smells deep pockets. Visible wealth quietly turns you into a walking ATM. And somehow, everyone in your life seems to have the pin. The quietly wealthy skip all of that drama entirely. Nobody asks the guy in the 10-year-old Toyota to bankroll their startup. Nobody pads the invoice for a person in a plain jacket. Looking ordinary works like a force field. It makes you boring to predators, and boring is safe. It buys you the one thing money was supposed to buy in the first place: the freedom to be left alone in peace with what you actually built. There's an old saying, old money whispers, new money shouts, and no money screams. The people who have held wealth the longest are almost always the hardest ones to spot. They learned that being quietly underestimated is its own superpower. In a negotiation, in a room, in life, looking like you have nothing is the perfect disguise for someone who has everything. Reason 4, the truly rich stopped keeping score because they already won the game. Flexing is something you only do while you still feel like you have something to prove. The deeply secure don't bother. And that tells you almost everything about who actually has the money in the room. Status spending is a treadmill, and it's rigged so you can never win. You buy the thing, you get a dopamine high that lasts about 3 days, and then it quietly becomes your new normal. So now you need a bigger thing to feel it again. And there's always someone richer than you, so the race has no finish line. People sprint on that treadmill for 40 years, exhausted, calling it ambition, never once getting anywhere. Economists even have a name for the engine underneath it: lifestyle inflation. Every raise gets quietly swallowed by a nicer car, a bigger place, a higher version of the exact same life. So you run faster and stay in precisely the same spot, just with more impressive debt. The treadmill doesn't care how much you earn. It simply speeds up to match you. The quietly wealthy simply stepped off the treadmill. Their sense of security doesn't come from what the room thinks. It comes from what they know is sitting in the account. And that is a kind of freedom no handbag has ever delivered. The freedom to genuinely, completely not care whether a stranger is impressed by your shoes. Once you stop playing for the crowd, you'd be amazed how much money and how much peace you'll suddenly stays in your pocket. Reason 5, every single dollar you don't spend looking rich is a dollar that quietly works to make you rich. This is the math that does all the heavy lifting, and it's almost boring how simple it is, which is exactly why it works and the flashy stuff doesn't. Picture $50,000. Sink it into a status car and it loses most of its value the second you drive it off the lot. In 5 years, it's a fraction of what you paid. Take that same $50,000 and leave it alone in a boring, low-cost index fund, and over a couple of decades, it can quietly grow into $200,000 or $300,000. Same money. One version screams for 3 years and then dies in a depreciation chart. The other whispers for 30 years and grows into freedom. That's what looking poor actually is when you do the math. You're not giving anything up. You're just moving it out of a costume you wear for strangers today and into a fortune you own for yourself tomorrow. The flashy spender buys applause that fades by next season. The quiet builder buys the entire rest of their life. One of them is renting a feeling, the other is purchasing freedom on layaway, one boring decision at a time. Remember the guy in the supercar from the very beginning of this video? In 10 years, that car will be worth almost nothing, and he'll be on his 3rd lease, still performing. The quiet builder who skipped all of it will be sitting on a small fortune in the same plain jacket he's always worn. Nobody will clap for him, and he won't need them to. Reason 6, looking poor quietly filters the fake people out of your life. For free. When you don't broadcast money, the people who stick around are there for you, not for what you can buy them. And that turns out to be one of the most valuable filters you'll ever own. The flex attracts exactly the wrong crowd. People who measure your worth in logos and disappear the moment the money does. Stay quiet and you get something far better. Relationships that would survive you losing everything tomorrow morning. Those are the only ones that were ever real. Quick gut check for the comments. Have you ever felt judged for what you drive or wear or don't own? Be honest down below. I read every single one and I promise you're not alone. Reason 7, and this is the one that ties all the others together. The ultimate flex is not needing to flex at all. Pay attention and you'll see it everywhere. The loudest person in any room is almost always the most insecure one. And the quietest person, the one with nothing to prove, is very often the one who already has everything. Because here's the trap nobody warns you about. Looking rich is a prison. Once you've shown the world a certain lifestyle, you have to keep paying for it, forever, or face the quiet humiliation of falling off. The bigger house needs the bigger everything. That's not wealth, that's a hostage situation with a designer label on it. You stop being the owner of your life and become a full-time employee of your own image, working just to keep the performance running. People literally call them golden handcuffs. The fancier the life you put on display, the more trapped you become inside it. You can't quietly downsize without everyone noticing, so you keep grinding to fund a version of yourself you invented for other people. The shinier the cage, the harder it is to walk out the door. Real freedom, on the other hand, looks almost boring from the outside. It's sleeping deeply because you don't owe anyone a thing. It's saying no to plans you never wanted. It's the quiet confidence of someone who could absolutely buy the flashy thing and simply chooses not to need it. That's the flex billionaires quietly pick over and over. So understand this. Looking poor isn't the absence of wealth. Very often, the looking poor is the wealth. Back on that quiet street in Omaha, the richest man on the block is finishing a $4 breakfast in the same house he's owned for over 60 years. He isn't pretending to be poor, and he isn't depriving himself of anything he actually wants. He simply understood decades ago that the game everyone else is exhausting themselves playing, the logos, the leases, the endless performance, is a game you win by quietly refusing to play it at all. So here's your move, starting today. The next time you're about to buy something mainly to be seen, just pause and ask yourself one honest question. Am I buying this for me? Or for an audience that isn't even watching? Most of the time, the answer sets you free. Keep the money, build the iceberg under the surface, let everyone else have the applause. You quietly take the freedom. If this changed how you see money even a little, the subscribe button is free. Honestly, the quietest, best value flex on this entire platform. And coming up next, the high-income poverty trap. How people earning 6 figures somehow end up living paycheck to paycheck, drowning while everyone assumes they're winning, and why a bigger salary almost never fixes it. You will not believe how common and how avoidable it is. I'm Clara. Stay quiet, stay rich, and I'll see you there.